Okay. Okay, so welcome to our next session for our CBL group. And I know we've had several sessions before, but this is our first one of the year. So everyone, Happy New Year, welcome back. I was just listening to a podcast from, I think it was Brene Brown and James Clear, the guy that wrote Atomic Habits. And if you've ever heard of Atomic Habits, you'll know that it's all about building behaviors from very small changes that you make. And so I wanted just to open up today, since it is still the new year. I think officially we can still talk about that. And then the rest of the time, we're going to go quickly today, but it's connecting to community partners. So I'm just curious if, oh wow, that formatting is very different from the actual presentation, but it did say, what is one small habit or goal that you'd like to work on this year, whether it's in your classroom, it can be personal, professional, whatever you all think. If anyone is willing to answer, you can, but no worries. It's just kind of our opening activity.
I'm trying to drink less of my Diet Coke and more of my fizzy water.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to reshare as well because I'm wondering if it didn't update. So if anyone wants to.
Julie, you're a girl after my own heart. I have a Diet Coke addiction too. But my goal was to lose a few pounds for Christmas, and I currently have COVID. So I'm 3 pounds down. But anyway, I'm okay. I'm double vaccinated and all that, but I just, so I'm home today, but I'm working and I'm here.
Nice.
So we'll get through it.
Hope you feel better. Yeah.
Can you all see the presentation with the yellow line on it, or are you seeing the
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And quick side note,
Yeah.
Karen Sipes is not teaching at 11. She teaches at 10 and 12, so it might be a little bit busy for her, but she may be available about 11 o'clock time if we do that Mondays. Perfect.
Okay. I might switch it and we'll, we can always adjust it. I made it intentionally a small group for scheduling. So, well, that's great. Anyone else?
Oh, go ahead, Christine.
Oh, thank you, Kim. My husband and I are meeting on the campus at 5 o'clock every afternoon to go walking around the campus for a mile. And we started doing that last week.
Awesome.
That's great.
So cool.
Yeah, mine is fitness related also, just eating better. So
I love that. Mine is more creativity based. I just feel like I used to be so much more creative as a young person. And so whether that's, writing a letter, or I guess even reading a book can be considered creative, or actually doing like art projects like calligraphy or something like that. So I love that. I think that's awesome that everyone has integrated something. I think it's cool to start a new year with just a new, fresh, kind of small habit. But that podcast I was mentioning, if you do like podcasts, it's from Unlocking Us on Spotify with Brene Brown. They're so good. But let's jump into our content today. So we're talking about connecting with community. Actually, am I in the wrong one? No, we're in the right one. How to integrate CBL into your course. And so a lot of this is going to be repetitive because a lot of it is repetitive. It's actually a pretty simple process. And so you'll see some of the information you've seen before. But for today, the agenda is pretty short. It's just going over main components, connecting to your curriculum, and then reviewing our pairs steps and talking about resources. And it's pretty interactive today. A lot of the concepts you all have already integrated into your courses, so it's not going to be anything like life-changing. The next course, the next session, if you all have any ideas or have recommendations, let me know. But I was thinking about doing one on the reflection piece, just because that is such a big part of doing community-based learning and really tying it all together. So we're going to jump in. First, we have to do a quote because I just love quotes. But this is from Denzel Washington. At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even about what you've accomplished. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. And so he kind of gets at the heart, I think, of why we're doing community-based learning. And, you're lifting not only up a community partner, but the students' lives and the way that you're providing knowledge and skills and experience as well. Okay. I put this in here just because I wanted to see where we're at with knowledge of community-based learning topic. So does anyone, you can drop in the chat or you can even raise your hand, but anybody, anybody want to guess? What are the 3 components to community-based learning? They're very, very basic components. Like, what do you need to actually do community-based learning? And if someone wants to write one that they know, as someone else can write the other, we'll see where we get.
I have my notes pulled up and I have them in front of me.
Nice. You can go for it.
Can
Yeah.
I could put one in. I don't
Okay,
know.
put one in and we'll see how we do as a group. And if not, I love that. I love that you have your notes ready. Maybe it'll jog people's memories. Yes. So for community-based learning, you need a genuine community need. Anything else? All right, give us one more. Oh, yes, a plan. So a plan could, yep, a plan and connecting to academic course could go together. And then you also need, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you the answers here. That was great. Yeah, awesome. So you need a group of students, right? You need a group of a population to actually do the project. You need a community partner with a genuine community need, and then you need your CBL project, which includes all of those things that you all added, connecting to the academic course, reflection activity, and a plan. So you all got 100% on your pop quiz today. And then I always like to add, ideally, there's a strong connection to the CBL project and your course curriculum. And so that's what we're talking about today is how do you tie it? How do you integrate it? If you're starting fresh, where do you start? So here's another pop quiz. What is the acronym for the CBL steps? And your hint is right there. Feel free to come off audio or you can drop in the chat, whichever you prefer. Yes, and you even spelled it right. There's one more letter, but you're very close. So it is pairs, intentionally misspelled so that we can use that symbol. But we're going to go through pairs today because I think these steps are the core of really doing CBL. If you do all these steps, you're going to have an awesome project. It's going to be really meaningful for students. I will say that, you know, the planning piece is probably going to be the most time consuming, and there's a very organic way of approaching it. As we may hear, if we have some time at the end, just hearing from some of those of you that have already done projects and how you approached it. So just to review, PAIRS is the acronym for the clear steps for community-based learning. They stand for planning, action, reflection, evaluation, and sharing. And we'll go into just like a little bit more detail, not too much, but with planning, you want to choose a CBL type. So the CBL types that we've talked about so far are service learning, community-based, service learning, community service, internships, volunteerism, and field education. So those are the types. There probably are more out there, but these are the ones at GCC that we see most often, and so we are promoting those. And then you'll also need the community need with a community partner. Also really good to think about is to be mutually beneficial and ideally student driven, where the students have a say maybe in where it is or how the project unravels. And then tying it to your course, especially with service learning. Service learning is kind of the golden boy of community-based learning, where it really shines through the academic coursework. And then I put just a little arrow to paperwork because there is paperwork involved, but thankfully you just have to be aware of it. I think raise your hand or use a reaction if you did meet with Carrie. I feel like I saw some of, oh, cool. Yay, I saw some of you on that meeting, and that you got your dynamic forms folder, which makes it so much easier. And she just created a packet. And then that's for the student side. And then for the community partner side, I will help you out. So as far as integrating CBL into your course or / program, because I know we talked about you can actually do CBL throughout a program, where do you start? I think and this is based on what I've read and what I've talked with faculty, is knowing your curriculum. Start with what you have. Start with the learning objectives that you have in your syllabus. Find a community partner whose work relates to the curriculum. And to do that, we have either career services, myself, we have contracts lifecycle management, which is what CLM is in that first bullet point. And we did in one of our sessions go through that. I'm happy to walk you through on a one-on-one how to find that again, just to check to see if a community partner is approved. Another thing is just reaching out and talking to community partners about a project. A lot of you all already have connections or maybe networking going on. And so I always like to start with low hanging fruit. So if you have a connection, I think that's a great place to start. And of course, the community partner workshop will go more into detail on how to identify those community partners. Thinking creatively of how to merge a CBL project with your course. Like I said, it is an organic process. You may start with a connection in the community that you want to build from. You may start with a learning objective. You may start with just like the desire to add CBL to your course. So there's really not an algorithm for where to start and, you have to do this and then this. It can kind of come together in a lot of different ways. My biggest thing that I've heard and read is starting early, making sure you're starting early to plan your CBL project. So maybe right now you're just gathering information, you're getting those breadcrumbs together, and then by next year, give yourself ample time. Maybe you want to try it, or maybe you want to do a smaller version, maybe the fall term or something like that. And then go ahead and reach out to me if you ever want to brainstorm. I love that part. It's really fun. And we have lists and things that we can help you connect. So here's just some ideas of how you can start. I wanted to share this with you. So, and I'll show you an example too. But if you're like, man, I know, for example, psychology. I know Julie's in the psychology field. You want to do a community-based learning project, but you just want to see what's been done before and look at some other people's syllabi from other colleges or something like that. This is the best resource I have found. But if you just go to Google, and I'm going to do this here for you in a second too, and you just type in campus compact syllabi, you're going to see for the first link that pops up, most likely is going to be the campus compact syllabi archives, and you click on that. So I'm going to do that for you, and then we're just going to utilize the filters from the lower left menu to search for discipline. So I'm going to exit here. Can you all see Google? Okay, so I'm going to do campus compact syllabi and just see what pops up. And the first one should be the archives. Campus Compact is an organization that's been around a long time that focuses on community engagement and civic engagement. And so it's a really great resource, well-known resource as well. So there's a lot of things on here, but to not get stuck in the mud, just kind of go down to the bottom left. I think the disciplines filter is super easy. You just click on it, and then you can search for psychology. Let's see, we've got physical. I'd have to probably look for that one. Physical education, communications, English I saw in there. So you can just go ahead and click. So let me just click on one. So psychology. So there's a few in here. There's several, but
Physical education was right above psychology.
Was it? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you can just click on this. Let's see, some of them are specific. This educational, psychiatric, health psychology. I'm not sure which ones that you teach, but let's do this service learning internship course. You can just kind of see how they're writing their course objectives, their learning objectives. They even have a PDF that you can just look at and kind of read how they write things out. It may or may not be helpful, but I think it's a good start if you're just like, I just kind of want to, if you're a visual person, you like to see how things are done, start there. I think that's the best place. So I wanted to share that with you. For the sake of time, I was going to go through each one for each of y'all, but I think that will be an easy homework task just for y'all to look that up. I will at the end of our session, or really, I think I've already shared it, but there is a list I've compiled of helpful resources that has a bunch of like CBL toolkits and things from different universities that are just individually showcased on their websites, and I've compiled them so I can share those as well. They're not nicely organized into disciplines, but they do provide kind of like the steps, like, oh, what should you do now? So other things for when you're starting out, know your audience. And this is not a comprehensive list of questions. So I will ask you after this slide if there's any questions, so keep that in mind. But what type of CBL project would be appropriate for your students? And the reason why I ask is you might be teaching 100 level courses. Maybe they're just starting out. Maybe their social skills are just being developed more, and you don't want to throw them into a complex project or situation. Skill level is also kind of maybe not so much on the soft skills, but on like the industry skills that you're focusing on. What group or individual strengths can they offer? So maybe just getting to know your students and knowing how they can play out in the project. What community partners align with your course objectives, or vice versa. Maybe you align your course objectives with a project that you have coming up. So either way. And then how often should you offer this projects? Once or multiple times with one or more community partners. Now this can get your head in a twist, in the sense that there really is no formula for community-based learning. The best, well, I'll say the research shows the best practices are that it's sustainable and it's over time. So whether you find an organization that you work with, maybe in the fall term, and a different organization in the spring term, that's great. If you keep working with them, I think they show better outcomes as far as just relationships with community partners. But you can, depending, on your schedule, if you do want to have a service learning project that is reoccurring over the term, or maybe it's just one big project, that's okay too. So question to think about, what are, off the top of your head, I'm going to come back to this one. What are off the top of your head some other questions you might consider or factors for your specific course or program needs? You can drop in the chat.
I'm considering having a consult with you because I don't know what to consider.
Yeah, no, that's really great. I've worked with a lot of faculty already just to wrap their head around wherever they're at and just kind of lay out the next steps. And that's been great to see.
I think for me, the biggest thing has been logistical, like literally 3 people in a GCC van due to COVID. Like
Right.
seriously, I can't take a class of 10 people in a van.
Yes, no,
Those logistical things are a nightmare.
yes, good to think too.
And I think for me, it's also, I have some, like the intern, I called Lindsay on Friday, I think, because I had to bounce stuff off of her. So thank you. An intern needing to stay remote. So they need to work remotely. So trying to find a remote international internship. So now that's what we're cracking into. So just options of delivery, even for service learning.
Yeah, it really, different projects can take different shapes, and sometimes it takes a little more research and work, and other times it falls right into place. So on that note, Stephanie, of logistics. So these are just some ideas. These are not like foolproof answers, but how do you manage your students' schedules, right? That's a big one. Like, oh, my students have families, they have jobs, they have all these things. The best way I've seen is that to include it in the syllabus ahead of time. And ideally you're planning this, at least a year or 6 months in advance so that you can include it and the dates so that when they sign up for the course, they'll see it. And I think realistically, not everyone's probably going to be able to participate. So you may have to offer several options or even an online option. Dealing with associated costs is a tough one because, you don't want to ask students to pay for anything, especially, if you know your audience. And then one of the opportunities, I know, Julie, you're in Reimagine right now. They offer through the Reimagine course some funds afterwards that you can utilize. Also, they offer grants. I think it was in the fall, I believe. They had a grant that you could apply for funds to do high impact practices, which CBL is definitely one of them. So we're also working with our man, I don't want to mess it up. I'll just say it. We're working with Scott Schultz and Susan Campbell to also see if we can round up some funds that are just available, all the time, where you could almost write like a mini proposal and then we check up on the funds afterwards. And then transportation is a tough one. You can always consider remote options on campus projects utilizing campus vans. I know Stephanie probably had students just drive there individually. If you do use campus vans, you do have to, do that little training, but then there's also COVID restrictions. So thinking about all this stuff is good. I can't say there's like a super simple answer, but just things to think about for your upcoming project. So real quick, I know we're almost at 1:30. The action step is involving just getting the course objectives, connecting with the curriculum, the community need, scheduling dates, completing that CBO project. So that's really, the meat of it. And then reflection is just the super kind of fun, integrative piece that ties it all together. And I believe in February, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. I know our meeting's coming up in February too, so I'll ask you all about that if you want to skip a month. But really great to just bring some creativity into it, whether it's open discussion, art projects, video reflections, short essays, however you want to do it. And then evaluation is that piece to just see if what understanding took place, what goals were met, things like that. And then career services is working with our ECBL committee on Canvas to provide a template so that you could use as like a starting point, that we can have centralized data. So hopefully over the course of a year, we can say, okay, this percentage of faculty utilize some aspect of community-based learning, or really experiential and community-based learning. And here were some of the outcomes. So Julie, we'll be roping you into that discussion for sure. And then sharing is super fun. And I really hope that we can practice this even from our pilot group here, is to share the cool things that you've been doing. I had a teacher, Gina Weatherly, she's in the early childhood education. She was in Reimagine last term, and I did my presentation for CBL. And right after that, she said, oh, we did this Socktober drive. And I was like, what? I was like, tell me more. She's like, yeah, we had over 600 socks donated, 600 pairs of socks, just because it was like a quick volunteer program where students could make a change in the lives of the families for the experiential, for the early childhood program. And I was like, we should tell people about this stuff. And so it was just a good reminder of just sharing the positive things that come out of the hard work that you're putting in for community-based learning. And so there's going to be lots of ways to do that, but some include writing a spotlight to share with your department, or sharing, on meetings or career services. I would love to create like a little newsletter at the end of the year and just kind of do the highlights of all the cool things that, thanks, Stephanie. I see your thumbs up. Okay, so quick, just reboot here. Clear steps includes a pre-step, which is the planning, all the logistic kind of thought processing, the paperwork. And then during is your action, that's actually doing the project. And then post is your reflection evaluation, which may include assessment. I put appreciation in there is because you can write a letter to the community partner or do some sort of appreciation for the community partner for also lending their time and their resources and things that, thank you always go a long way. And then down here is just that continuous professional development and increased understanding of CBL. I think it's like anything over time, you learn a little bit, and then the next year you learn a little bit more, and then you kind of, get into a groove. So, okay, so we have 4 minutes. This is basically the end of the presentation. If any of you want to share a quick insight about CBL that you've done, this would be a great time. If you want to share, like, how did you integrate CBL into your course? I know Kim, you were a little more seasoned, and then Stephanie, you also just did one. So if you want to take like a minute and just kind of share.
Go ahead, Stephanie. I'm just kidding. It's just different
Okay.
now. COVID is changed everything I was doing.
I'll just be brief because some of you guys were in the honors meeting. So I did this thing, totally going in blind, didn't know what I was doing. Oh my gosh, sink or swim. So we go down to the Somali refugee place, and on the reflections. So first of all, we did a podcast because I thought, podcasts are so too 2022, 2021, not, that like writing a 5-page paper is so 1900s. And it was life-changing for the students. And they wrote, and I had shared this with the honors meeting, that on one podcast, one of the girls, when they were talking, it just started an organic conversation back and forth. And one of the girls started crying about just the experience, and it tied into other things going on. And when she immigrated to the United States and all this kind of, when her family came over and all that. But anyway, on the reflections at the end of the semester, they had to talk, they had to do a final paper. And one of it's like, what's the one thing you'll take from this class? Or what was, your favorite part or whatever. And almost, I think every single student said that experience. So there is, and I'm so excited to do it again. And so now I've just got to figure out the logistics, but that it was, Lindsay, thank you. It was a huge impact on their life. And they're all like, we want to go back. I couldn't believe it. It was
So
amazing.
cool. That's so cool. I know, Christine, you probably need to head out too. And I know you're in reimagining. I should have said that earlier, but if you need to go, but Kim, I'd love to hear too, because this is recorded. It is going to go out to our other members who couldn't make it today.
Well, just what Stephanie just said, I had students even in Com 100 that were like, this was the best experience I've ever had. Like,
Wow.
and it was, they went out and they had to pick a community problem. And then, because they had to work in a group, so it was a meta assignment, right? So it was a group, they have to talk about group communication, and they had to discuss all their roles, but yet they were going to do something. But I had a number of students, even in that class, that were so impacted by the experience. And it just goes so much deeper for the students than just course content. So then they really were a group. They had more cohesion than other groups who just, didn't do a community-based project. So I have no statistics. I only have a lot of stories and a lot of quotes from students. So I know my assessment really needs to get beefed up, but that's what I've heard too. It's just life-changing, which that's what we want. We want the students to experience and to be transformed by their learning and their experiences. So, yeah.
So awesome. That's the kind of stuff I want to make sure, other faculty members on campus are hearing, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of logistical kind of configuration, but the outcome is, well, I mean, I'm sure it could go poorly too, but usually it's pretty positive and impactful. So for both of you, just to get it on, on the recording, where did you start when you were like, I want to do a CBL project? What was your first step? Did you start with several things aligned? Did you look at your syllabus and say, all right, let's go here? I know Stephanie, we chatted as well. So what would you say kind of that? How'd you
First of
start?
all, I always knew that I wanted to do a project ever since I started teaching that class. So I'm a very kinesthetic learner personally. Maybe that's why I'm in exercise science. I don't know. Yeah. But one other thing I did want to say was, I don't have any like what you're saying. We have a lot of stories and backup, but here's the thing. That was the first time I ever taught that honors class last semester. And I only had 10 people and they let it go. I was worried about it. And our numbers are really down all across the campus. We keep hearing about this, the 4DX and retention and all that. Well, this semester, the class doesn't start until the second half and it's already, I think it's full almost. So
Wow.
Word must have gotten out somehow that we do this cool project. So if anything, maybe that's helpful just in retention, which is such a big thing. So the main thing I did is I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to do a project. So Lindsay was my go-to person and you were amazing. So and when I went through the list and kind of started thinking about what I want to do, it started going through the different organizations and looking at the curriculum.
Perfect. So it kind of just helped to talk to someone that maybe knows more community partners. And then you looked at your syllabus and were like, okay, I see the connection and I'm going to reach out.
Yeah. And
awesome.
You were the secret ingredient.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. I hope I can be helpful. But Kim, you've been doing this a while. What's your, if you can remember, like, how did you begin to integrate CBL into your courses? And maybe that's a continual process. How do you continue to integrate it?
Well, so I think right now I'm struggling, I'll just be honest, because COVID has changed the way my classes are even set up, so I don't have as many face-to-face classes that I was used to, like for COM 263. So we're going to see though, the second 8 weeks is my COM 263 and it's a combined honors section. So I have some ideas for that. But what I did in the beginning is I knew I wanted students to have an experience because one of the core for COM 263 is intercultural communication. So they have to go do that, right? Like you can learn about that, but you actually have to go do that. So I think the need was, I needed to make this happen. So we did some things we started small on campus. So we would meet 263 with like an ESL class or a class for international students. So we started small, and we were seeing how impactful that was for students, that we would get together at four class periods, then we would have different topics they were talking about each time. And we saw the impact of that. And we thought, well, what if we did this also with the greater community and with immigrants in the greater community? So that's kind of how it grew. It started with a need, then it went to campus, and then we went to the community.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I do think COVID has drastically changed the way we approach community-based learning. And maybe even scale it back a little bit of just thinking like, okay, maybe it was more complex before. You had the ability, to coordinate these really cool projects. And now maybe it's more like, all right, like maybe we offer some volunteer opportunities, right? For students to go seek, do some research and find opportunities to go interact with, people from different countries and things like that. So that's really helpful. Thank you all for sharing, because I do think Rajmi and Karen and Julie and Christine will most likely, watch this and hopefully get some inspiration at least.
I'm ready to take them internationally. So just say the word. I mean, we were in Scotland last summer at the University of Edinburgh, where my daughter
cool.
and they have one of the best medical schools in the world there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to bring the students here, and they have summer programs. And I'm like, okay, how do we coordinate this? And
Cool.
But
you're not worried about the logistics.
Stephanie, we got to do it. What is it? Food and culture. Is that your class? What is it? Nutrition.
Mine is how your culture affects your health.
Okay, culture and health. Okay.
Yeah. And when you go to these other countries and you just like look at the history, and I was at the Museum of London, and they had this whole wing on the Black Plague and the Black Death, and all these bodies they had found literally like a couple blocks away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I normally wouldn't have paid attention because of COVID. And I was learning so much, and I thought, oh my gosh, the students just to be here would learn so much. I want to bring them with me.
That's so
Right.
cool.
Agree. And someday then we should combine, when we all get to travel again, that, and you do that, I do intercultural, so they can get 6 credits. So because one whole section of intercultural is applied in different areas, and one is healthcare, how culture impacts healthcare, which is, so I just think and I know you mentioned that before, even with global scholars, and just that yes, your classes can be part of that. So I think
summer class. I think that's what we should do. We should get some of the others. I don't know. I think that'd be a blast.
That'd be so cool.
Wonderful.
Or do some of the things that you did, Lindsay, where we go to Africa or wherever. I'm for it.
Yeah. Wow. That would be so amazing. Just to see the effects of just 2 of you on our campus that are like sold on CBL, and just how it kind of just dominoes into the excitement of teaching. And it's just cool to see both sides, because the students are going to benefit when they see their faculty member and instructors just like pumped to talk about the topic. It's a win-win. So
can I throw something else out? I'm part of this, well, I'm not part, but I'm on this list. I'm part of the group of the Afghan Association of Arizona, and they are offering us a session, I think it's next Sunday, where they are getting free fingerprint cards. So that's been a barrier before, if students were going to be working with children at all in a tutoring capacity, was this fingerprint clearance card. But so that's coming up, which I thought that's an amazing thing that is being offered for free. So Stephanie, I don't know if any of your students need that, or if it's on Facebook, they have a Facebook group. But just things like that, little barriers, that if we can get rid of the little barriers, then we can have more options for projects.
can you share that info? Because I know, Kim, that the behavioral health science program, all those students that are doing internships have to have fingerprint clearance card. So I can definitely share with the faculty to share with their students.
I would, and I think part of it is to see if they want to help Afghans, because I think, see if they want to help Afghans, and then they can get their card, because I think It'd be
The
great
connection.
if we had like 200 students showing up, give me my free card. And they're like, oh, what's an Afghan? I don't know.
Right.
So,
Okay, I see. Have you connected with I'm blanking on his name, Ibrahim Naeem?
oh yeah, Dr. Knight. Oh yes.
Naeem? Okay, because I was gonna say he might have some students as well. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great opportunity. We're at the end of our session. We've kind of already like been talking about this, but my last reflection question, since that is a part of CBL, is how do you want to start to integrate CBL into your classroom for this term or maybe for the next term? Is there anything different that you're going to do? Anything, I mean, what are your strategies for the
Well,
upcoming terms?
I'm going to undo I'm going to erase the mistakes that happened for the first time, but I want to try to repeat it. And I think another issue is that the podcast system. So we don't have I was just going to have them use their phone, and there's an app you can call, it's called Anchor, to do the podcast. But then I contacted CTLE. And so Cheryl Cohen, bless her heart, said, I have podcast equipment. And she came over with a cart and all this stuff. And I'm like, and it was kind of a one-shot deal. And I said, that's great, that I can't ask you to do this every semester. So, because that's not really her job title, is to be IT person. So I met with her. She said she's happy to do it again this semester for me. But I said, if word gets out that we're doing this, other instructors may want you to help. And she said, well, that's something we could revisit, with like getting IT money, something to purchase. I don't know. But that was one thing that I was a little concerned about. But so it's basically just refining what I did before and discussing the future podcast systems on campus.
I like that you mentioned that, Stephanie, because I think the whole process, not just of CBL, but of life, right, is to kind of do trial and error and then to improve, trial and error and improve, and just continue that process until you kind of find that sweet spot. But then you might get something like COVID thrown at you. So then you have to readjust. So just that reflection, even on your part as a faculty member, on like, okay, well, how did it go? How can I improve it? Those types of things. That's super important too. Do you have anything, Kim?
I have a lot to do. No, but I have nothing to report, but I'm doing something. So I don't know what it is yet. I'll let you know.
Are you talking? I don't think we can hear you.
I was on mute. I'm so sorry. I was just saying, like, I think it is a weird time. It's okay to just give yourself time and reassess. And human beings are not as accessible, and most of these projects and most of these concepts are built on connecting with people. So it is hard, but it's still possible. So that is all I have for today. I always like to add these resources just as a reminder, but you always have support from me and career services, with whether it's paperwork, partnerships, or activities, just coming up with those. We have an ECBL website for faculty that's coming soon. Speaking of Cheryl Cullen, it's in her hands, so she's developing that. It will be on the intranet, so you'll be able to kind of click and like learn about different ECBL types, and then all the intricacies like the paperwork and partnership lists and things like that. And then ECBL professional development, we'll just continue with those. This is one of those, but I will always take your ideas too if you want me to dive into a specific topic. And then we also have an ECBL committee on campus, which Stephanie is a part of currently, and we're just trying to be champions and promote ECBL throughout every department, just because it is so impactful and so important. And I think with our HCL accreditation coming up, I think it could potentially change, just I'm not sure what the right word is, but it will enhance, I guess, just what we do here at GCC. I think it's so important and so powerful. And then if you are on social media and would like to follow us, we do post a lot of things, but we also have a lot of workshops for your students too, throughout the year. And actually I can probably post. Do you all know how to access our our workshops to share with students?
Yes, I just don't know how to on the top of my head.
Yeah, sure.
The
Here,
Izell came in and made a presentation to one of my classes and gave us all the links, and I have them. I just,
yeah, no worries. Where it really lives is just here on career services, and then you go to virtual workshops and register now. So I can drop this in the chat, but see how it just kind of pops up. You can see what they are. So online career tools. This one is cool because it's going to go through our new software, Big Interview. Big Interview is a free software that GCC faculty and students can access, and it helps with interviewing skills, but it also has AI feedback, so it can record you and tell you you're talking too fast, or you said 10 times, or things like that. And then there's a resume builder as well that's built in if that's part of your process. So this is a great opportunity. I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat if I can pull up the chat real quick. Anything else? Any questions or comments before we close for today?
no, sorry. No, I'm fine.
You're just over there coughing and dying.
I'm fine. I've just got to get through this and then I'll be back on campus.
Yeah, I hope you recover.
Oh,
I'm fine.
I had it at Christmas. It
Yeah,
was
the
it
the
lingered.
vaccine's doing its job. So, but I was happy about the 3-pound weight loss. So
Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for coming and just hanging out too, the extra 15 minutes. I know our group is small, but intentionally so that we can really have conversations like this. And then I'll email you all the recording of this and then ask you about February. And I'll go ahead and double check and change the time. It sounds like maybe this time 11, like the morning time would be better. So thank you all, and I look forward to chatting soon.